It's not to say that Delia had Mine's trust fully, but it was one of those things where Mine never gave up on Delia, even with so many people saying, like, she can't be trusted, and she herself knew that, but I love the fact that Mine understood that, like, it's not like Delia was raised to know any better, right? She was raised in such a shitty situation and known nothing but loss and pain, and when shitty, disgusting, fat priests say that you should be some noble's plaything, that's all she knows. So of course, even though Mine's is pure energy, it doesn't matter, right? Someone who's only known one thing their entire lives is, like, they're not going to change overnight. It's something that could take a lifetime, potentially. And just to see this episode, and even though I don't think it's completely lost, to see her not only, like, dismiss Delia, and Delia not even seeing anything wrong with what she did, it's sad to see Mine in some ways give up on her, because unfortunately she thought this baby would be the key into her maybe awakening and seeing the light, but she didn't even consider the fact that this fat bastard would be able to use that baby to lock her in even further by saying, oh, we'll get him adopted and you can even stay with him for some time. Like, nothing she does can get through to her, and it's a pretty sad thing as they so casually end the episode with the kidnapping officially happen. Not only did Mine get kidnapped, her sister got kidnapped in the process, and to see the escalation of this episode, I mean, they did a really solid job at making the final moments of this episode almost feel like a sucker punch. Because here's the thing, this season pretty much established early on that kidnapping was on the table, that people were targeting her, but it just didn't feel like this would be the episode. Almost every episode, it's not this episode that something like that's going to happen. And then when it finally does, you feel like you got sucker punched, and now you're trying to hide the black eye because you're a little ashamed you didn't see it coming. And I love the fact that, you know, throughout the episode, especially with the red beam, right? You know, the signal that we need guards at the gate because someone's trying to enter that shouldn't. You know, the fact that it happens and it makes you worried and then immediately is resolved, like, oh, okay, you know, they were just some nobles that didn't know about the rule change. It's a little odd, but at the very least, nothing to be worried about. And then the end of the episode finally comes around. You know, we have the Delia stuff that's fresh on our mind. It makes us just wondering where that story's going to go. You know, the fact of the adoption and everything. What did this fast bastard really want to do? You're walking home, you have the family there. Even with someone like Mine saying, if I would be safer if it was just me and my bodyguard here, it still doesn't feel like something's gonna happen there, because you're even like, oh shit, it's Otto. It's like, oh look it, we're just kind of like rebuilding the gang here. And then immediately we realize everything's going to shit, and by the time we realize what's about to happen has already happened. That's what I really like about this season, is the franticness and the fear. They're doing such a good job with directing, both in the simpler sides in terms of putting other content first in our minds, like in the case of Delia, what's going to happen with Dirk and everything like that. But even that moment when you have that, like, the mini chase scene, the fact that they, like, just distorted the almost alleyway to make it feel like we're getting sucked in and the walls are kind of closing in on us. There were so many cool visual details. And I think, honestly, this season of Bookworm doesn't get enough praise for how much the visual flair was upped. Because a lot of people, they associate super crisp art with what is Sakuga. It's like, oh, you know, because when you look at a standard character image in this show in comparison to maybe a lot of high-action shonens, it may not be the most highly refined character models, but there's so many extra details in this season, and I think the shorter episode length, because we're only getting 10 episodes for the season, right? I think it plays a big factor because you're not stretching your resources as thin. You're getting to make those high-octane directing moments really pop. The background details are remaining very solid, and they have very consistent character models this season, and you mix it together with just a director who knows what he's doing, being able to get across so much detail and emotion without needing characters or, you know, plot explanations to be thrown in the viewer's face. It's a really solid season. Truthfully, I'd go as far to say this is a perfect Bookworm season for me. And I've loved this show. I thought it was one of the stronger isekai ever since season 1 when I binged it, but I very much think it's been a steady climb with what we're seeing. And I'm, even with 2 more episodes to go in this season, I'm already dying to know what season 4 is going to look like, because I've heard, like, for people, at the very least, if I'm remembering correctly, when I was talking about season 2, I had a lot of people say, like, seasons 3 through probably, like, 5's worth of content is some of their favorite, and given the stuff that we've seen this point so far, I can completely understand why with what we've already seen. But I mean, It was dramatic. It was pretty heartbreaking for me because I love Delia's character. I was pleasantly surprised by the number of people who were like okay with me singing Delia's praise, because given other sections of the internet, I think Delia gets a lot of shit thrown on her, but I saw like a lot of people, whether anime original or source readers, being like, yeah, I agree. Like, she was raised in like a shitty situation. How the hell would she know any better? Then just because we're following Best Girl Mind doesn't mean that, like, she's going to immediately trust and change her tune, because, you know, it's a toxic environment. You know, how we're raised shapes us, good and bad alike. And I like seeing that, and that's what I think makes this episode so, because she's so happy about the entire thing, and you're just like, I understand why, but it's just so sad, almost like it's our family member that we almost have to give up on, feeling like maybe it is too late. And I'm hoping that it's not the case. I'm hoping there's going to be a redemption for her. Not that, like, I hate her character, but something that will prove to Mayim that she does want her by her side, and that maybe, you know, her actions haven't been in vain, sort of a thing. And with the kidnapping and everything finally taking place, is one of those things that I wish didn't have to happen, but at the same time, you can't establish a kidnapping plotline and not do something with it before we reach the finish line, so I'm glad they did that. But in terms of the simpler stuff, there's a lot of nice moments. I mean, we have Mine 2 over here, getting basically funded for her research, which I like, because Mine's very much been someone who's all about the end goal, and I think she's starting to realize that research and things like that is important. She's not stupid about handing away money, but she also recognizes that research is going to be something that's important. Just seeing the general stuff, like creating the bell for the little stuffed bear or the stuffed animal, whatever you want to call it. A lot of cute moments, and I think those are also very carefully placed in the middle portions to let us make our guard drop, so that when the big shit happens, it definitely feels like a sucker punch. And I mean, with 2 episodes to go, you know we're gonna have some intense shit coming in our anime, just because, like, you don't have someone who's actively pushed away from seeing Mine now wanting to see her, and then you end with a kidnapping plotline, and then just to see the moments earlier in the episode with the such a scumbag, man, with the wine glass, and then he smacks that servant in the face, and he's foaming at the mouth. Ugly bastard. Ugly, ugly bastard, to say the least. I mean, I love talking about Bookworm. Sometimes certain episodes are slower than others, but episodes like these, I think, perfectly balance the higher intensity moments, the slice of life character world building moment, and then also those really emotional moments, like in the case of Delia. And I think the story in general, just seeing how different characters are responding to these actions, it feels perfectly in line for what we've come to expect. Characters like Fran and things like that, you know, very much looking after Mine's well-being, understanding that, you know, she doesn't want to give up on Delia, but logically from their perspective, she has to. It's just really great to see those moments, and how this show, to me anyway, feels like it's getting better rather than being kind of the hit or a miss adaptation like you see a lot of these types of stories. But thoughts, if you have any, down below. What do you think? What do you hope to see at the last couple of episodes? Theories, if you got any, let me know. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.